thank you again for coming out. We've got Lalit here, one of the founders of Bash Gaming, which is the most successful independent, when I say independent, social casino game company, meaning the one that hasn't been acquired yet. Double Down sold for $500 million in the bingo space earlier this year. Bingo Blitz or Buffalo Studios. And I had one request of Bash. I said, please don't sell for less than $250 million. So, Lalit, thank you for coming here today.
Hello. Yeah, well. Hi, everyone. This is Lalit, co-founder of Bash Gaming. We are the creators of Bingo Bash, the #1 bingo on iOS mobile devices. And today I'm going to speak about what is the importance of analytics in the game design and why it matters in today's day. Before that, some shameless self-promotion from our company. We are the top grossing app on iOS. We peaked to #1 on iPad and #5 on the grossing charts for iPhone. We are the leaders in social casino gaming at this point. Our Bingo Bash is top grossing across all devices: Android, Kindle, iOS, iPad. And we have this technology we support for 35,000 concurrent users playing at the same moment across devices. So this is a brief outline of the talk that I'm going to cover. I'll talk about our application, Bingo Bash, and I'll use it as a case study to tell you what are the tricks we used in game design and what are the tricks we used in analytics to take it to the top of the charts. And at the end, I'll just give you a brief summary of the important analytics that you need to focus on if you are in the development stage of a game. So let's start with the current state of affairs. The mobile market is becoming increasingly crowded. There are a lot of applications, 800,000 already speaking about March this year. And especially the social casino gaming market, a lot of people are targeting this genre because like 30% of the revenue comes from those kind of games. And the problem here is that there is almost zero social discovery in the mobile app store. If you want a user, you have to pay for that and get it from the advertisers. And to compound that fact, if you are in the social casino genre, the cost of acquisition can go as high as $5, just because there is a lot of competition for those users. And the byproduct of this problem is that a lot of companies who make very great games with exciting mechanics, but they cannot break ground because either they don't have deep pockets to get money to get users, or they don't know how to get users, good users, targeted users to the games. So my talk will focus on this problem, like how do you use numbers to get users and make sure you end up making money out of those users. Our application, Bingo Bash, it's a game of bingo. I guess most of you know already. We call it housey in Commonwealth countries. And our game works across devices, and people can play across devices. If I'm on iPhone, I can play with a person playing on PC or on an iPad or Android or a Kindle device. This is the game on iPad. So how do we do it? If I had to summarize in one line, I would say you have to marry game design with analytics right from the start. That's the mantra if you want to have a successful game these days. So I'll just break the talk into two parts, the game design and the analytics. Why I think our game is a hit today is because I think our game has a perfect balance of virtual currency, social and fun elements. And if you have that, then you put your numbers to make right decisions going forward, I think your game is going to be a hit. So coming out game design, we always talk internally that our game should be in this zone of game mechanics zen. So it should not be too hard that it becomes frustrating for the user, or it should not be too easy that people just get bored of the game. So if your game lies in that zen, the challenge is to keep your game in that zone, and number two is keep it fresh, because people should not be like playing your game and then after 2 weeks say, okay, there is nothing new in this game, I just go to something else. So the challenge is to keep it fresh. So you can keep it fresh by just adding new content, flavored content, and it can be as simple as choosing a local holiday like a Mother's Day theme. So you launch a new bingo room which is focused on Mother's Day, some collection items on Mother's Day, and that keeps the game fresh and people engaged in your game. Whenever you launch a new content or a new room, you have to measure it. You have to learn from that whether it is working or not, what was not working, why it is not working, who is playing it, how much time they are spending on the game, etc. And if you measure it, then you will not make the same mistakes next time. And always, whenever you push your new content, drive your decisions based on user feedback. If you listen to your users, it can be your differentiator between your competitors. A lot of the new features that we added in a game were suggested by users, which is surprising. Like, since a lot of older women play our games, most of them are colorblind, so they suggested to keep the daubers, give them an option to change the shape of the dauber so that they can know if it is a green color or a blue color or a spade or a circle. So all these small things can increase the user loyalty, and they will continue playing your game. So when I talk about themed room, this is a themed room we launched for Christmas. So it's just a twist on the bingo game. Like, instead of the regular pattern, straight line and diagonal lines, we have this pathfinding algorithm where once you daub the correct numbers, the Santa will go and kill the Grinch. So this adds a new flavor to your game, and people feel more excited to play these kind of games. So this sets the expectation the users that, okay, I should keep playing the game because next St. Patrick's Day is coming and something else will be there on the charts. This is a St. Patrick's Day room, similar kind of game, because that was a hit, so we use the same game mechanic in this room as well. This is for the summer games. This is for Easter. Now, coming to the analytics, 50% of our effort in the company in the design phase goes into the analytics. So I generally hear that making social game is pretty easy, but it used to be when there was only Facebook and you get a lot of users from virality, people send requests to their friends and they in turn come to your game. But these days there is almost zero social discovery, so you have to spend money on them. So it has become as tough a business as any business. In a typical game, we gather about 200 plus metrics, and all our decisions going forward, what new has to be added, whether to continue with the game or drop it off, depends on these 200 metrics that we take. And many people shy off from analytics because they think it is mathematics and they don't understand mathematics. No, it is not maths. It is as simple as just incrementing a counter and plotting it against a date. Just see the trend on the graph and then make your decisions on that. It's very easy. It gets complex when you start writing your own AI engine, which will predict you some data, whether this user is going to drop off or when this user is going to most likely to pay. But until that point of time, it's pretty easy. Just take the numbers, log it, and plot it. That will help you a lot. Knowing what to track is as important as when to track and how to track. And once you understand the business of social games, it becomes very easy. Like, so I'll start about how to track, because there are a lot of free companies and tools that you can use to track your analytics, like Google and Flurry to start with. You don't need to create your own stats dashboard or anything. Just use Flurry for mobile and Google for Facebook. You get most of the important stats you need. And when you are planning to design the game, think about analytics at this very point. Whenever you make an assumption saying, okay, I want the game design or the game mechanic to be this way, just back it with your numbers. Do a A/B testing on the mechanic, launch it for a couple of days, see the response, and then say, okay, 50% of the users like this, 50 don't like it, I can go ahead. If 70% don't like it, why go ahead with the game? So whatever decision you take, you do a A/B testing or gather stats about progression, the time spent on the game, and then decide on the feature. These are what can analytics tell you? These are the important questions that you can ask, and if you have the numbers, you'll get definite answers to this. The first and most important question is, are you even making money out of a game? So if you don't have the numbers, if you're not tracking it correctly, like how much money you're spending on the user acquisition, how much money they are paying off, then you won't be able to know whether you are putting money into a sink or you are eventually making money out of a game. Which one of your gameplay is best? In Bingo, we have like 7 to 8 type of gameplay. But to know that what your next room would be like, you have to have numbers based on the performance of the past rooms. Where are the users' access point? Where are they dropping off? Whether level 5 is the most difficult level or not, or it is taking too much time to complete it, or is there a bug at that level? So you have to know where the user is dropping out, where the user stops playing your game. So that can you can identify bugs, or you can identify boring levels, or you can identify tough scenarios in your game using those numbers. You can also identify where the people are spending most time on. Like, we launched a tournament feature in Bingo, but nobody was using it. So we put a lot of effort designing the tournament, a lot of technology went into that, and then eventually you find people are not even using that. So why use that feature? Just take it off your game. Other 2 points are most important, like when your users are playing and when they are paying. So whenever you send them a notification or a reminder to play the game, that is pretty important, that you should send him the time when he last played and when he's most likely to pay. So whenever he's out of chips, maybe you can suggest him directly saying, you're out of chips, here's a promotional offer, buy something. So these 2 points, again, you will know if you measure stuff. Like, do people pay upfront, or they pay at the end of the game, or when do they pay? And another one is also important based on the user equation, like what is your demographic? Are males playing your game? Are females playing your game? What is the age they are playing? Which country it is hit on? So if you have those numbers, you can spend your advertising budget on those areas and get targeted users. That way you can maximize your ROI. Balancing a virtual game economy can be the difference between a hit game and a money-making game and a loss-making game. Because if there is too much leak in your game, people will never have the need of buying something. And if they don't have the need of buying anything, they'll not buy anything. So you have to have this perfect balance in the economy of virtual goods. And that you can get it from analytics also. So if you can measure as much as you can get all the answers of your questions that you are asking. These are the various analytics we track in the various stages of the game, starting from acquisition to monetization. In acquisition, what is the source of users? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from friends? Are they coming from ad partner? Which ad partner? So this data, if you track, it's important when you go to the last stage, that is revenue. So if you say spend $100 on an advertiser A, and those users end up paying $90, you're making a loss of $10. So you should not use the same advertising source next time. So this way you can maximize you can optimize your ad spending if you track the source of users, and then create a cohort and just track their progress, how they go. So once you get the users by paying dollars to advertisers, how do they interact with your game? Are they completing the tutorial? How much time they play after completing the tutorial? What is the session time? When are they skipping the tutorial? All these questions you can answer and optimize your tutorial or the initial first impression of your game. So in that way, if you are getting 100 users, at least if 90% of the users are going to the step 2 after completing the tutorial, you are good. If 40% are dropping off, means you have to improve your tutorial. So all these numbers can tell you where to focus on and maximize your ROI. So okay, you bought the users, they completed the tutorial, they played the game, they liked the game. Now, are they coming on day 2? Are they coming on day 7? Are they coming on day 30? So this will know that, this will tell you whether your game is sticky enough or not, or it's just the impulse that a person played and then he forgot about the game. So this retention becomes important because very few people pay on the first day. So it's very important to get the user back to the game on day 2nd or day 7th. So this will tell you, suppose there's a lot of drop in day 3rd, maybe by the time the user is on the 3rd day, he's reaching a level which is very tough or he's not able to understand. So this will also tell you the pain point of the users if you track these numbers. Then you have to also see the churn factor and the cohorts. As I told you, you take a source of users from advertiser A, make a cohort, and then see where they are dropping off. So it'll give you a lot of insights from the user's perspective based on their demographics, the region, age, gender, etc. Another thing is referral, but these days hardly any users come from users referral. But even if they do, they are very targeted users, because if a friend refers you something, you are more inclined to try that out rather than just seeing an ad on your game. So also track the behavior of those users who are referrals and see if they are referring to anybody or not. Which mechanism is working for you? Are Facebook feed working? If nobody is clicking on Facebook feed, why even bother to show a pop-up to a user? Why spoil his experience? So if you measure this, you can also increase the user experience that way. And finally, the revenue stats. The most important number is ARPU, like average revenue per user. So if you're spending X amount of dollars to get the users, are you getting the revenue back from them or not? So at least, I mean, that number will tell you whether you're making money or losing money. Other important stats are percentage of people playing. If you have very less percentage of people playing, then maybe they're not understanding the buy screen, or you can optimize the buy screen or prompt them to buy something at particular times. So all these numbers can tell you where to focus in your game. If your percentage of paying is low, focus on the users who are playing a lot but not paying. Why they are not playing? Is your economy loose? Do they already have a lot of money that they don't need to buy anything? Then comes the other stat, the lifetime value. Like how much a user pays in his entire lifetime before he decides to stop playing the game. So this, when you compare it with the cost of acquisition, will give you the profit per user, and which is like, which will sum of your business, like how much I'm playing, how much I'm getting in a lifetime of the user, and that is the profit I'm making from that user. So to increase the LTV of a user should be the goal of the game, that he should not drop off or feel bored. And that's why we push more and more content and give him more avenues to spend more in the game. So that is where the importance of putting fresh content in the game. These are the same stats that we're talking about. Yeah. And how much to measure? I would say don't be shy. Measure as much as you want and anything that you can get. And then measure it based on various demographics. Like you may see that the session time today was very low, but maybe you are only targeting males on that day. So that will not sum up your entire inference that you draw out of the statistics. So once you're measuring something, also compare it with age. So are the 30 age group people liking it? 20 age group people are not liking it? If you see that today the performance was very low, just try to break it into cohorts and see which users liked it, which you didn't like it. That way you can see, you can pinpoint why this performance was low, or whether your feature did bad, what was the reason behind that. And finally, I'll just summarize the takeaways. If you are designing a game right now, these are the key things you should focus right away. From the monetization point of view, track the LTV of the user and the cost of acquisition. Your profit will be the lifetime value minus the acquisition of cost and the scale of your advertising, how many users you are getting. If your ARPU is in the range of $1 per month, you are doing good. You're doing fabulous. If your ARPU is between 30 to 50 cents per month, you're doing good. So that is the numbers you should target at least at the start. For the retention, how many people are playing daily? How many people play once a month? The ratio should be around 30%, which is very good. Track 1 day, 7 day, end day retention. That will tell you if your game is sticky enough, it has life or not, and is your appointment metric working or not. Track session length and session count. That will tell you if your game is fun to play, or what is the playing pattern of the users. They want to play in bursts, or they want to play at a long stretch of times, so you can design your new features in that way. And optimize, measure, and iterate everything. Like if you have 2 buttons in the game, just see which button is working, what color is working, what the text is working or not. Localize your feature. Are people willing to use a localized game, or they want to play in English? So all these things you can know if you're measuring them. And you can, you should iterate daily. We have like 4 to 5 launches a day. We push new content, new stats, new analytics, whatever question we ask, and we don't have the answer to that, we add analytics and then get the answers a couple of days when we have the data. So iterate your game daily, improve on that based on the stats. And whatever you launch, just measure the effect, because beauty can be subjective. I may like the feature, you may like the feature, but not everybody will like the feature. Numbers will tell you whether this is good or not, and you cannot defute the numbers. And finally, experiment. I may say that $1 ARPU is very good, but you may get $2. There is no benchmark in social games. If your game is good and people want to pay, you can get a higher ARPU than anybody, and you can get higher session length than anybody. When we launched our game Bingo, we had this general industry number saying that the session length on iPhone should be this much. But we got way longer session length on iPhone than anybody else was getting. So you have to optimize and experiment and just see if numbers are working for you or not. And you can break all the barriers. Yeah, any questions?
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Any questions from the audience? Well, I know I've got one, because I think Bash's success story is fascinating, because they weren't first to market. This is, I think, a classic example of the second mouse gets the cheese. Bingo Blitz had been clearly the dominant bingo player on Facebook.
Yeah.
Bash having been, second to market as far as the big players are concerned. How did you end up becoming number one in this space when you weren't there to begin with?
So the key was to go to port the game to all the devices and port it as soon as possible. So like Aber suggested in the previous talk, we used Adobe Air, and that gave us a lot of leverage. And we went to market, I guess, 4 to 5 months ahead than Bingo Blitz on all the mobile devices. And that gave us a strong foothold in the mobile industry. That's where the revenue is now.
Anybody have any other questions? Just brief name, introduction, and your question, please.
Dave Yonamini from MobilityWare. I have a question. You're a busy person. Among the 200 metrics that you collect, which ones do you personally look at every day?
So the ones I told you about monetization and the LTV, the retention. The first things that will tell you if there is a problem in your game is like, is there a monetization drop? Is there a session time drop? Or is there a retention drop? So if suddenly 100 people are playing today and tomorrow 50 people play, I know there is a problem. So seeing the retention numbers and the monetization numbers are the key. Like if the revenue goes down or the number of people playing goes down or the session time goes down, means there is a problem with your game. And then you can focus on the specific numbers where you think the problem would be.
Excellent. We can do another question from all the big industry guys. Again, name, company, and your question, please.
Jose Breton's Product Madness. You guys just recently launched your slot machines.
Yeah.
How much of all of this is applicable to a completely different segment as bingo is to slot machine?
Yeah.
And what difficulties have you found through that transition?
So we are still experimenting on the slots game, like sending a chunk of users through cross promotion or getting it from some sources which we think are the targeted players for this segment. And we are still getting metrics, optimizing it and stuff. But the issue is, females don't like slots as much as males do. And but there are a lot of females, when we cross promote a slot game from bingo, they end up playing for longer times and paying as well. So we are just in the experimentation stage, identifying which users we should target, which region we should target, which age group we should target. So, yeah.
We've got time for one more question, if anyone's got one. I guess we'll try and take a short break here. We've got about 5 minutes before the next panel. Thank you, Lalit, for coming out here. Excellent presentation, and we've got.